Greetings from DY Patil Medical College. I am Dr. Amitabh Banerjee, Professor in Community Medicine, and it's always a pleasure to come on DocPlus. And today is a topic which should interest everyone. It's in the news, that is Zika virus. And more than 6 cases, I think 8 cases have been detected in Pune, and everybody is worried how it will unfold. So I will just give an overview of the epidemiology, global epidemiology of Zika virus. What is the epidemiology or lack of epidemiology in our country, and what research gaps are there, Zika virus, and how much worried we should be. So Zika virus is not a new viral infection. It was demonstrated long back in the 1950. In fact, first it was isolated in a rhesus macaque monkey somewhere in 1947 and demonstrated to be human infection after its discovery in a febrile monkey. It was seen first in a field work in Africa, and the first cases date back to 1950s. And also the virus, the Aedes mosquito, which is very widespread and which is also a vector of dengue and chikungunya in vast parts of the world, particularly tropical, subtropical area. That is the same mosquito. The same mosquito is responsible for transmission of Zika and acting as a reservoir also. And Zika is the name of the village in Uganda where the virus was first isolated. So it's a cause of human infections throughout Equatorial Africa, Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia. Aedes aegypti is the primary vector in Southeast Asia. And other Aedes species, Aedes africanus and other species are responsible for transmission in Africa, and aegypti also to some extent. And it was lying low for almost more than 50 years since its discovery. But perhaps due to industrialization, maybe some amount of movements of population encroaching on the wildlife or encroaching the vector population density, maybe to some extent due to global warming, large outbreaks started occurring in 2007. Was first large outbreak in 2007 of Zika was occurred in French Polynesia. French Polynesia is not in France, it is somewhere, I think, beyond Australia in the Pacific, East Pacific Ocean. And in 2013 and 14, Chile's Easter Island was found to have an outbreak in the Western Hemisphere. From the Eastern Hemisphere, it went to the Western Hemisphere. And the largest outbreak to date had been in Brazil around 2015-16. There were more than 1 lakh cases, in Brazil, and they were about to host the Olympics, and there were some sports events also there. A large collection of population, probably that triggered it, they think. And in Brazil, it was the first time that there was concern that it may cause microcephaly, that is a small head, a small skull in a child, and affect brain development. That was a association in Brazil. It was contemplated the pregnant woman in first trimester, if it gets infected, if a pregnant woman gets infected with Zika virus, it can cause microcephaly. But again, these are observational and ecological observations, and very difficult to exactly associate microcephaly with Zika. But concerns are there. The serious concerns are there, and we require more studies, because most of the Zika infections occur in the poor countries, and there is malnourishment during pregnancy. Many children are born low birth weight and undernourishment. So there can be many causes of microcephaly. So we require to tease out the attributable fraction due to Zika. And there are some studies which found only 5 to 10% of microcephaly could be attributed to Zika virus, but still very requires further investigation. Then Thailand, nearer to India, Thailand, in 2016 there was a large outbreak in Thailand, 2,300 cases. Of course, nothing as large as compared to Brazil. And India in 2018 had 283 cases. So they are, the understanding is that there are different strains. The African strains And Brazilian strains are more widespread and more transmissible, and they are perhaps more. They are associated with microcephaly, perhaps, but the strains in the Southeast Asian regions, are Asian strains, are more benign. That is a speculation, and we require more genomic surveillance to identify the different way the different strains behave. So according to WHO, as of March 2017, now it is 2024, there are more areas which may be affected. The Zika virus had spread to 84 countries and territories where vectors are present, to include 61 areas with ongoing transmission throughout Central America, South America, Caribbean, Africa, and Southeast Asia. In fact, out of 5 zones of the WHO, 5 regions of the WHO, 4 out of 5 regions are having Zika virus transmission. So this is a map which shows the areas of high risk of Zika virus. This mapping has been done on the prevalence of the Aedes vector. So if you see the whole of Latin America, large parts of Africa, the whole of India and Southeast Asia are high risk territories for Zika virus, because they have the Aedes aegypti, which is already transmitting dengue and other viruses like chikungunya, and it is a very sturdy. Aedes is a very sturdy vector. It can survive in adverse environment for quite some time. Even in the dry soil or dry tree tops, it can survive, and when there is any water, it can revive itself. And the trans-ovarian transmission of dengue virus is there, and Zika virus we perhaps don't know, but it's a very sturdy vector. So wherever the Aedes is there, the possibility of Zika virus is there, the risk of Zika virus is there. And this is a map which shows the areas where they have done the sero surveys to identify the transmission of Zika virus. The sero surveys are done by identifying the antibodies, IgG, because if the population gets infected after the recovery, the IgM antibody is the first to come, and IgG antibody, they persist for a longer time. So if one does a survey of the population and if they find the IgG antibodies, that indicate that the Zika virus is endemic in that place. So if you see the map, it is very unfortunate that not a single sero survey has been done in India. India is blank. Sero surveys have been done in Africa, in South America, in Mexico, and in China also. Thailand also. Thailand does a lot of sero surveys, and the number of sero surveys done are indicated in the color, and India, not a single sero survey is done. So this is a major gap in our research, in Indian research, that Zika virus, we are getting indication that Zika virus is endemic in the country. How much endemic without sero survey? The risk is all over India because of the Aedes mosquito, but the infection, how much it is endemic, we don't know. And on the sero surveys, overall global prevalence has been worked out, and these are some of the results of the sero survey. And it shows that there are very high areas are there in the Mexico and Latin America, and Brazil is 20%, and in parts of Western Africa and in parts of French Polynesia, I think, right beyond Australia. And India, we don't know. India, we presume that it is widespread in India, Zika virus, because most of the infection is mild. Most of the infection is asymptomatic. And even if it is symptomatic, it will resemble or endemic diseases like dengue and chikungunya. So these are just viral fever. Most of us are suffering from viral fever once in a while, So it's very difficult to identify without a proper sero survey. And sero survey, the challenges are also there. We'll just come to it. So global sero prevalence is overall 21% of the people experience Zika virus as per the IgG antibodies, and the 95%, the range is from 16.1 to 26%. So, and there are parts of Africa of continued endemicity, sustained transmission. There are almost in parts of Africa, there is 8.4% people are having antibodies throughout the year. That means the low endemicity is continuing. IgG antibodies have been found in all regions of the WHO. I said 4/5 of the region rather. While India is a risk zone for Zika infection due to abundant breeding of Aedes mosquitoes, no sero surveys have been carried out. So this is a major gap in our research. We do not know the true endemicity of Zika virus infection in India. So early stages of infection, what is the pathogenesis? It's like all flaviviruses. Flaviviruses are the mosquito-borne viruses like dengue, chikungunya, yellow fever, and this Zika. The local replication initial stage, then it disseminates to different parts of the body and viremia, when you get fever. And these are the organs where it has got an affinity for. Zika virus, it has got an affinity for uterus and vagina, vaginal epithelium, uterine fibroblast. It has an affinity for the testes, the placenta. That placenta may be the reason for its adverse effects on the pregnant mothers and microcephaly, or sometimes it may cause abortion. Brain, it has got an affinity for brain, mature neurons, eye, bipolar optic, and the body fluids. It has an affinity. Zika virus are distributed in the body fluids. Because of this distribution in the body fluids, there is a chance of transmission through sexual intercourse and by exchange of body fluids. So that concern is also there. Therefore, sometimes they advise when the outbreak is going on that the safe sex is advised so that it is not transmitted from to sexual intercourse, particularly since pregnancy, pregnant women are, if it results in pregnancy and pregnant first trimester, they are susceptible to the adverse events, the sort of suspected adverse events. So these are the early clinical signs. Incubation period is 3 to 10 days. There is fever, headache, malaise, macular pepper, rash may be there, arthritis. So just like dengue, chikungunya, conjunctivitis because affinity for eyes, stains, fatigue, periarticular edema, swelling around the joints, microcephaly in utero. This is something an association, as I said, in most of the countries where it is endemic. They are also having malnourishment and other causes of microcephaly. And Guillain-Barré syndrome has been reported rare cases. So this is how it is transmitted primarily by Aedes aegypti mosquito and in some parts Aedes albopictus. So this Aedes mosquito, as we all know from our study of dengue, they breed in the domestic and peri-domestic area, this water collection. So this requires some public participation. It can, as it is in the body fluids and blood, it can be transmitted by blood transfusion and perinatal transmission during childbirth. Treatment is no specific, symptomatic, usually self-limiting. First trimester there is a concern, and rare complication is Guillain-Barré syndrome. So these are the research needs. This is a need for sero survey to map the endemicity. And it is not easy sero survey, because it is a challenging as IgG assays for Zika are not easy due to cross-reactivity with other viral infections like dengue viruses. You may, because dengue is also very widespread, and the reagents, when you try to look for IgG, IgM, the dengue persons recovered from dengue may also react to the Zika IgG antibodies. Because of that, the specificity and accuracy of the sero surveys are limited. We need research for better kits for conducting sero surveys. We need to monitor another, as I said, in the Brazilian strain, or the association has been found of microcephaly in Brazil. But there have been some studies which studied large cases of microcephaly, and they could attribute only about less than 5% of microcephaly could be attributed to Zika virus infection. More than 95% of the microcephaly were due to other reasons. As I said, malnutrition, can be other toxins, maybe small for that. So we need to monitor. Indian researchers should have their own data. We need to monitor the anthropometric measurements of all newborns for any trends of microcephaly or other birth defects and correlate with Zika trends. If we are having, and firstly we require, because now these cases do not convey much. You see 8 cases, 6 cases, they do not convey much because the majority of cases are subclinical. These 8 cases are identified by the virus or PCR, RT-PCR, but they are not based on the population survey. So for every one case, there may be hundreds of cases which are undetected. So for that, you require sero surveys at least to map, and hopefully we may find that large, like in some parts of the world, more than 20-30% are already showing antibodies, IgG. Maybe if it shows 20%, means 50% may be affected because IgG drops after some times. So if that be so, and if we have seen from the risk the whole country has got Aedes, so, and this virus is not a new virus. It has only been because we are having advances in virology, advances in kits. So we are detecting it. So it is more than a 50 or 70-year-old virus. 1950 is isolated. So it is a 70-year-old virus. So if it had been such a potential for pandemic spread, it would have created many outbreaks. So perhaps we will not have a public health emergency on our hands. We may not overwhelm the hospital services because if it has been getting transmitted as a undetected transmission, as a subclinical infection, large number of population may be having some immunity, hopefully. And as there may be some cross-reactivity with dengue and other chikungunya, perhaps we may get immunity-wise also, it may perhaps surge. So that way, the concern should not be that much. And even recently, the director of NIV also gave a statement that we should monitor the situation. Surveillance is required, but perhaps genomic studies are required. But there is no cause for panic because 70 years there have been no, so sudden we don't expect. And the majority of population may be having immunity, but again, there is a need for better kits for sero surveys, which does not cross-react with the other viruses, which is again prevalent. And that itself requires attention. All vector-borne diseases requires attention. That's why the common pathway is better water management, better public education, artificial water collection, better drainage, rainwater storm drainage, public health engineering. That will take care of dengue, chikungunya and Zika. Aedes is a very sturdy vector, so we require very good water management. So this piecemeal solution will not work. Identify Zika, identify dengue, or identify for vaccine for each, which may, if it is there, which may be just an additional in the toolkit. But better hygiene, sanitation, public education. Another problem with this Aedes mosquito and its transmitted diseases like dengue, chikungunya and Zika is that Aedes mosquito is a day biter. It bites during the daytime. It doesn't bite during the night time. So other mosquito-borne diseases like malaria and other diseases, we can advise mosquito nets, impregnated mosquito nets, and to some extent we can prevent the mosquito bites. But if it is a day biter, we cannot, it's very difficult to avoid the mosquito bites. So in schools, children, and in daytime offices, the Aedes mosquitoes are, and one can make out the Aedes mosquito. They have got the black and white stripes. They are known as tiger mosquitoes. So if you see on their legs and the wings, they have got alternate black and white stripes. So these are the vector which transmit. The best way, we cannot prevent the bite, but we can prevent the breeding of the mosquitoes. And for that, lot of people's cooperation and the public health engineering and the sanitation department, water management is required. then research to better vector control methods and public health engineering. So this is the way forward. So these are some of the references, and this is the Mandel Douglas is a very standard book on infectious disease, which the map of Zika virus I have taken from them, and the Sero survey, very extensive loss, neglected tropical disease. It's a neglected tropical disease. The last reference, Sabah et al., neglected tropical disease, is available in the public domain, PLOS neglected tropical disease. It gives the global distribution of the Zika virus. And as I have projected the map on the Sero surveys, a systematic review. So as a clinician also, we should know where the patient is coming, because many cases have occurred in the northern hemisphere where the Zika virus is not endemic, but there is a travel history from the areas which are endemic. So this is an important paper. So these are all this. So we need to sum it up. We need countrywide Sero surveys to map the spread of infection. We need more entomological studies. This is another thing I wanted to stress. Like I have been seeing myself also many institutes in our country which had good entomology support. We lack medical entomologists. Entomologists are the scientists who study the insects which cause disease. Medical entomology is a separate branch. So unfortunately, there is a lack of entomologists in regions where Zika and mosquito-borne disease are a threat. I have given the reference also that in Asian countries, Asia-Pacific regions, we are not having the field level workers, particularly entomologists. So who can study the vector, the mosquitoes, and how to control the mosquitoes, where they breed and how they are transmitting, and sometimes we require to dissect them to identify the virus or other pathogen. So we require the entomologists. So we are not doing the ground level research. We are, as I said, once we are at one end, we are seeing the virus, and the other end, we are waiting for a vaccine. In between, what is happening, like we don't have the gap, fill up the gap like Sero survey. It is something like seeing the two ends of the goalpost. One end is the virus, other end is the vaccine, and there is no goalkeeper. So goalkeepers are the field workers who can catch the ball, who can catch the mosquitoes, identify them. So there is lack of entomologists in regions where Zika is a threat and other mosquito-borne disease. The breed of entomologists are almost disappearing because nobody is going into this. We have to have a career path for entomologists, particularly in tropical countries where these vector-borne diseases are increasing. In fact, it was always a threat, but now it is increasing. We need more research on the association between microcephaly and Zika virus infection in pregnancy. Because this, we are going on assumptions because of some correlation in Brazil. But as I said, in developing countries, there are many factors for microcephaly. So these are some points which I noted as an afterthought, as a concluding remark. So thank you. I think I have finished.
It was absolutely wonderful listening to you. Very well presented session. A lot of takeaways for the audience. We have a few questions from the audience. With your permission, let's go on to the first question. What challenges are currently faced in diagnosing Zika virus, especially in distinguishing it from other vector-borne diseases like dengue and chikungunya?
It's a very relevant question. Zika virus, as I said, is not easy to diagnose, and that is why most of the time the cases are identified in Pune, because there is a facility, National Institute of Virology is here, state of the art. So that is the issue here, and there is a cross reaction, rapid test, there is a cross reaction with dengue, and so it is definitely only we require a specialized lab. I mean, lab like NIV. So this type of lab we cannot have all over the country. It may not be cost effective also. So better for that, we should map the seroprevalence studies so that we know and then we correlate with the epidemiology, and few cases we can send for specialized identification of the virus, and the other linked cases we can assume as well. So that is the way we can, in a resource limited, where the resource intensive tests are there, that is how we can negotiate.
Thank you for answering it elaborately. We'll move on to the next question now. How are local communities being educated and involved in the efforts to prevent spread of Zika virus?
That requires lots of mobilization of grassroots workers. Like we have got volunteers, community volunteers like ASA workers, then women education, children school education, because children are very easy to influence because they can be educated in school. So when they go home, they can themselves see around their houses, because most of the houses now they are having the garden, they are having some sort of potted plants in the balcony. Even in that potted plant, the Aedes can breed. So in fact, I started in our college. I started a couple of years back. I said, a lot of dengue cases were coming, and I told all the hostelers in the class, I used to give them a exercise that wherever you are staying in a hostel, you walk around in the evening and you take photos of any mosquito breeding or water collection, and you send it to the health assistant, and the number of sites you identify, we will give extra marks for that. So some sort of that type of school and college motivation, some sort of competition to identify and remove the water. I mean, it's not so, because these are simple things, but simple things are very difficult to to implement. The simple things, people just take it for granted, doesn't have much glamour. So just water collection, the whole, and we are a very crowded population. So health workers going to all the houses are difficult, but the health messages can be given to all the people, and through social media also we can do it.
Thank you once again for answering that. My next question to you is, given the risk of Zika virus to pregnant women and their babies, what specific guidelines and support should be provided to this vulnerable group?
Oh, this vulnerable group, very difficult. As I said, these are day biters. So, in fact, the woman first trimester of pregnancy is very crucial. So, she should protect herself in the first trimester of pregnancy, not to go out without proper mosquito repellent of clothing, full sleeves, particularly in the first trimester, and to expose parts. If she has to go out in the daytime, the exposed parts can be having some mosquito repellent. It has to be a personal protective measures on, of course, as I said, the water management, other thing, that is the public health, sanitary engineering, water management. But as a personal pregnancy, we can educate all. It can be part of the antenatal care, which we give to pregnant mothers when they go. They can be told in endemic areas, and we are an endemic area because the Aedes is there. So they can be told to take care, extra precaution to avoid exposing themselves to mosquitoes in the daytime, because it's a day biter. So that's the best we can do. Let's hope for the best. And overall nutrition and other things very good. Because as I said, maybe there are many factors which cause microcephaly. So we try to control this also, Zika, but the other contributing factors also should be able to, good nutrition, other things should be able to compensate for microcephaly, particularly folic acid deficiency and other, which can also cause neural tube damage and can cause microcephaly. So it's that way.